Monday, 11 convicts sentenced to life imprisonment in the 2002 post-Godhra Bilkis Bano gang rape case walked out of Godhra jail. This happened after the Gujarat government allowed their release under its remission policy, and as soon as the convicts were released, visuals emerged of relatives greeting them with sweets and charan-sparsh outside the Godhra jail, which of course led to a lot of criticism of their release. But what exactly happened in this case, and why have the convicts been released now? I'll explain to you in this episode of KYC or Know Your Constitution. Now let's begin with what had actually happened in this case, since it's a very old case. Bano, who was 19 years old and 5 months pregnant at that time, was gang raped during the 2002 post-Godhra riots in Randhikpur village and was left to die. According to the prosecution case, the attackers came in 2 white vehicles carrying swords, sickles and lathis, and on seeing Bano's family, started shouting, "Musalmano ko maro," or "kill the Muslims." They also killed 14 members of her family, including a 2-year-old daughter, Saleha, whose head was smashed on a rock by one of the attackers. Bano's family was hiding in fields near Ahmedabad, hoping to escape the violence that had erupted following the burning of a Sabarmati Express coach. Her case was termed as one of the most brutal of the 2002 Gujarat riots. And this is where her long and lonely fight for justice began. The Gujarat police initially dismissed her case in 2003, citing a lack of evidence. The same year, Bano approached the National Human Rights Commission and knocked on the doors of the Apex Court for Justice. The Supreme Court then asked the Central Bureau of Investigation, that is the CBI, to look into the matter and probe it. The CBI then arrested all the 11 men involved in this case in 2004. It arrested all the accused named by Bano and exhumed the bodies of those who were killed. Citing threats to her family, Bano petitioned the Supreme Court to move the trial from Gujarat. In August 2004, the case was also shifted to Mumbai from Gujarat. And in 2008, a trial court in Mumbai convicted 13 people of criminal conspiracy, rape and murder and sentenced 11 of them to life, that is life imprisonment. The 11 convicts are, you can see their names on your screens right now. Now the accused of course challenged their conviction in the Bombay High Court. And the CBI also moved the Bombay High Court seeking enhancement of the sentences of 3 accused to death penalty, and they also challenged the acquittal of 7 other accused. In May 2017, the Bombay High Court upheld the life imprisonment terms of the 11 accused, but quashed the acquittal of 7 others, including doctors and policemen, and held them guilty for tampering of evidence. After the verdict, Bano, sitting with her husband by her side and her little daughter on her lap, addressed a press conference in Delhi saying she was happy that the judiciary had not failed her. She spoke about how the last 15 years were very difficult and how her family went through a lot. In April 2019, she got another reason to smile after the Supreme Court ordered the Gujarat government to provide Bano with a compensation of Rs 50 lakhs, a government job and accommodation. Now these men, the 11 men, basically wanted to be released prematurely under sections 433 and 433A of the Code of Criminal Procedure. Let me take you through the law. Section 433 allows the appropriate government to commute an imprisonment for life to imprisonment of 14 years. That's what remission basically means. It means reducing the amount of sentence without changing its character. So for example, 2 years rigorous imprisonment can be changed to 1 year rigorous imprisonment. Section 433A places a restriction on powers of remission. It says that where a person has been given a life sentence for a crime which has death penalty as one of the punishments that can be given for committing the crime, then such a person shall not be released from prison unless he has served at least 14 years in jail. In this case, they had already served more than 15 years. Now just to clarify, this power of remission is different from the constitutional powers that are enjoyed by the President and the Governor under the Constitution. Articles 72 and 161 empower the President and the Governors of states to grant pardons or suspend, remit or commute sentences in certain cases. According to the Supreme Court, when the action can be traced to section 433 CRPC, the approval of the President or the Governor, as the case may be, is not really needed. But if the power is exercised under Article 72 and 161, the President's or the Governor's sanction is of course absolutely mandatory, it's necessary. But here also the President and the Governor are bound by the advice given by the Council of Ministers. So that's how all these powers are different. They're parallel, they're similar, but they're different. Up until now, the 11 men had spent about 15 years and 7 to 8 months in custody. Now, there was some confusion as to which government should consider their remission application, because the crime was committed in Gujarat, like I told you, but they were convicted by a Mumbai court. So, the Supreme Court settled this year, saying that since the crime was committed in Gujarat and ordinarily the trial would have happened in Gujarat, the state of Gujarat or the Gujarat government should consider the remission application. So, the Supreme Court asked the Gujarat government to consider their application for premature release within 2 months in May this year. Now, all state governments have their own policies and guidelines on grant of remission. So, the Gujarat government's latest policy, which was issued in 2014, has a long list of exceptions under it. You can see those on your screen right now. It in fact expressly says that certain categories of prisoners shall not be granted remission, and this includes prisoners who have been convicted for murder with rape or gang rape, which is exactly what had happened in Bilkis Bano's case. But why they've been granted remission despite this policy is because this policy does not apply in this case. The Supreme Court in its May judgment had also said that the applications in this case need to be considered on the basis of the state government's 1992 policy, which existed when these men were convicted. So now they have all been released based on this old 1992 policy. But the state government's decision is still, of course, facing a lot of criticism because this was a very heinous crime. Critics have, of course, pointed out that the new policy expressly prohibits state remission or premature release in gang rape cases. It also prohibits a release in cases that were investigated by CBI, which is exactly what happened in this case. Critics have also cited central guidelines for special remission to prisoners on Independence Day this year and Republic Day next year. You can again see these guidelines on your screens right now. These guidelines also say that special remission is not for people convicted for rape. Of course, both of these guidelines, the 2014 and the central guidelines, don't apply in this case again, but critics have basically tried to point out how the release of these 11 men went against the states and the centre's own latest principles. That's all I have for you for now. This is Apoorva Mandhani for ThePrint. For more such videos, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.